Our story begins in a place called the Gilded Obsidian, a high-end Manhattan restaurant where power is the most expensive thing on the menu. And in this world, Camila had learned to be smoke. Present, but unnoticed. Essential, but forgettable. For 3 years the polished marble floors had memorized the quiet shuffle of her non-slip shoes. She moved between tables where titans of industry discussed semiconductor tariffs and real estate acquisitions. Her existence was only acknowledged in moments of need. Camila. Marcus, the manager, cut through the ambient noise like a blade. His expression was a familiar cocktail of annoyance and condescension. "I need you to understand something about tonight." "Yes, Marcus." "The Han reservation." He stepped closer, his voice a hiss that felt louder than a shout. "This isn't some tech CEO throwing money around. These are serious people. Dangerous people. Do you understand?" She nodded, her eyes respectfully lowered. Years in the foster system, followed by the quiet dignity of her grandmother's home, had taught her that making herself smaller often made her safer. "I don't think you do," he pressed, his fingers digging into her shoulder, just hard enough to leave an impression without a mark. "If you so much as breathe wrong in their direction, if you embarrass me, embarrass this establishment, in this industry, with clients like this, you don't get second chances. You get blacklisted. Understand?" "I understand." "Good. Stay in the back sections. Derek and Jennifer will handle the VIPs." His eyes swept over her with casual dismissal. You don't have the presence for that level of service." Camila wanted to laugh a bitter, silent laugh. Presence. As if being noticed had ever been anything but a danger. As if visibility had ever protected anyone she loved. She simply nodded and slipped past him, the kitchen doors a refuge. But the memories came anyway, unbidden. Her mother's laugh cut short by screeching tires on a rainy Brooklyn street. The string of foster homes, each one colder than the last. And then, Grandmother Misun. She appeared like a miracle at the Children's Services office, her weathered Korean face stern, but her eyes impossibly kind. She spoke to Camila in English, her accent thick as honey. "You come with me now. You are family." What followed were years spent living between worlds. A young black girl in a deeply Korean household. She learned to bow properly, to speak a language that felt like a beautiful, intricate fusion of music and mathematics. She learned to make kimchi in Misun's tiny apartment, the scent of garlic and chili paste filling the air as the old woman whispered stories of a country Camila had never seen, but had somehow inherited. Stories of honor, of loyalty, and of debts that transcended death itself. "Remember," Misun would say, her gnarled fingers teaching Camila's younger hands how to fold mandu dumplings. "Respect is not what you say. Respect is how you say it, when you say it, and why." The kitchen doors swung open, jolting Camila back to the present. The head chef, Thomas, stood on a milk crate, his face flushed. "Listen up. I just got confirmation. Chairman Han Jeon-woo himself is coming tonight. Not just his son." A prep cook dropped a knife. It clattered against the stainless steel, the sound sharp as a gunshot. A murmur spread through the staff. Chairman Han was a legend, a ghost from the old country. Men like him didn't just retire, they became myths. Thomas's voice was grim. "Everything must be perfect. These people don't leave bad Yelp reviews. They make you disappear." Camila watched her coworker's hands begin to shake. She picked up a water pitcher, her own hand steady, and began to fill it. A line cook noticed her calm. "How are you not freaking out?" Because she knew something they didn't. Men like Chairman Han didn't truly care about the sweetness of the japchae or the temperature of the galbi. They cared about respect, about whether you understood the old hierarchies, the unspoken language of honor, about whether you knew how to serve without being servile. Grandmother Messen had taught her that distinction in 1,000 small, unforgettable lessons. Back on the floor, the atmosphere had transformed. The regular diners, masters of the universe in their own right, were suddenly finding urgent reasons to leave. A senator Camilla recognized from the news practically sprinted towards the exit. The entire ecosystem of the Gilded Obsidian understood that the top of the food chain had just arrived. When the tiger enters the forest, even the wolves fall silent. Through the restaurant's front windows, she saw them. A line of black Genesis SUVs, their tinted windows reflecting the city lights like dark, unblinking eyes. And Camilla's hands finally stopped moving. The last time she'd seen vehicles like that was in a memory that wasn't even hers, a story whispered by her grandmother about a night of broken promises and spilled blood. A story about a little girl who needed to disappear. The heavy oak doors began to open. And Camilla realized with a sudden, terrifying clarity that tonight, invisibility wouldn't be enough to save her. At precisely 8:30, the oak doors parted with a reverence that seemed to come from the building itself. 6 men entered first. Their dark, tailored suits cost more than Camilla's annual salary. With discreet earpieces and synchronized movements, they weren't walking. They were securing territory. Then, Seo Jun-han walked in. The air itself seemed to still. He was the crown prince of the Korean underworld, the man who had dragged the old families into the 21st century, washing blood money clean through tech investments and real estate. He was tall, with broad shoulders that filled his custom Tom Ford suit, and eyes like black ice that missed nothing. But the room didn't freeze for Seo Jun. It froze for the man whose arm he supported. Chairman Han Gyeon-woo was smaller than his son, aged but not diminished. His presence filled the space like smoke, suffocating and absolute. He wore a traditional dark hanbok jacket over Western trousers, the fusion of old and new worlds embodied in fabric. His face was a roadmap of difficult decisions and sleepless nights. The entire restaurant went silent. It was the held-breath silence of prey. From her station, Camilla watched, her hands clutching a water pitcher. Marcus materialized at the entrance, his face a mask of obsequious terror, bowing so deeply his forehead nearly touched his chest. Chairman Han's eyes swept over him as if he were furniture. The group moved toward the VIP section. Marcus frantically signaled Derek, the designated waiter. Camilla felt ice crystallize in her stomach. Derek didn't know. He approached with his practiced, confident, Western smile, a smile that was utterly, catastrophically wrong for this moment. "Good evening, gentlemen," Derek's voice boomed across the hushed space. "What can I start you with tonight?" Chairman Han slowly removed his reading glasses. The gesture was deliberate, ritualistic. He set them on the tablecloth with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot. He said nothing. The silence stretched. Derek's smile began to crack. Seo Jun sighed, the sound heavy with disappointment. "Water. Green tea," his English was clipped, a minimal accent. The damage was done. Jennifer, more experienced, was thrust forward. She attempted a small bow and a Korean greeting. It was better, but still clumsy. As she poured water, her hands steady but her movements too quick, too efficient, too American, Chairman Han's hand lifted. The gesture froze her mid-pour. He spoke in Korean, his voice like gravel grinding stone. "In my father's house, we poured water as we poured respect. Slowly. With attention. With the understanding that service is not a transaction, but an honor." Jennifer didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. She retreated, trembling. Seo-jun leaned forward. "Father, please." "It's a different generation." "No." Chairman Han's palm hit the table, just enough to make the glasses tremble. "Different excuses for the same disrespect." He pushed his chair back, the screech of wood against marble deafening. He switched to Korean, his words rapid and clear. "This place is hollow. It wears our culture like a costume, but has no spirit. No jeong. No understanding." For an American listener, jeong is a difficult concept. It's more than love, deeper than friendship. It's a profound emotional connection, a bond of loyalty and shared history that ties people together. To say a place has no jeong is to say it has no soul. "We are leaving," the chairman declared. Marcus's face went white. If Chairman Han walked out, the restaurant was finished. Disrespecting a man of his stature was a death sentence in this world. The bodyguards began to shift, preparing to leave. And in that moment, as everything was about to fall apart, Camilla's feet were moving before her brain could give the order. She didn't think, she just acted. It was an instinct older than conscious thought, a muscle memory inherited from her grandmother's patient hands. She took a simple ceramic cup and a folded cloth napkin from a service station, placing them on a small tray. Every movement was precise, a ritual. Then, she walked out of the shadows. The soft padding of her shoes sounded impossibly loud. She could feel Marcus's furious gaze burning into her back. One of the massive bodyguards stepped forward to intercept her. Camilla didn't stop. She dropped her gaze respectfully, placed her free hand over her heart in the old gesture of peace, the one Korean palace servants used when approaching royalty. Then she whispered in Korean, her voice barely audible, "I bring water." The guard hesitated. He looked at this small black woman, her posture screaming a language of deference he hadn't seen in decades. After 3 endless seconds, he stepped aside. She approached the table, ignoring Seo-jun's dangerously narrowed eyes. She focused only on Chairman Han. She didn't bow, but inclined her body with profound respect. First, she reached out and turned the existing water glass so the clearest, most perfect side faced the chairman. Then, with both hands, she placed the fresh cup before him, the traditional way. She folded her hands at her waist, dropped her chin, and spoke. But the words that left her mouth were not modern Korean. It was a formal, honorific language from the Joseon dynasty, the kind used by court attendants speaking to the king over a century ago. It was the linguistic equivalent of speaking perfect Chaucerian English in a modern boardroom. It was the language of ancestors. "To the honored elder," she said in this ancient tongue, "I offer peace. The water is clear, the heart is true. Your footsteps seem heavy, so may this small sincerity bring you comfort." The effect was instantaneous. Chairman Han's eyes went wide with a shock so profound it seemed to physically strike him. His cane clattered to the floor. He slowly lowered himself back into his chair, his gaze locked on Camilla's face as if he were seeing a ghost. Seo-jun froze, his hand hovering over his phone. He stared at Camilla with an expression that mixed disbelief with a sharper, more dangerous recognition. Chairman Han reached a trembling hand toward her face, stopping just short. His voice came out as a choked whisper. Where did you learn those words? Nobody speaks like this anymore." Camilla kept her hands folded, her voice soft but steady. "My grandmother taught me." Grandmother Park Mi-soon. The name hit the table like a grenade. Chairman Han's face cycled through confusion, recognition, and then a pain so deep it had no name. He gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles white. Park Mi-sun, he repeated, the name a prayer and a curse. The woman from Busan, the one who raised, he couldn't finish. His eyes filled with tears. Chairman Han Gyeon-woo, the man who built empires on fear, was crying. A single tear tracked down his weathered face, and every person in the Gilded Obsidian knew they were witnessing something that would change everything. He looked across the restaurant to where Marcus stood, pale as death. "You," the chairman's finger extended like a weapon. "Come here." Marcus scurried forward. "Yes, Chairman Han, sir. I deeply apologize for any." "This woman," Chairman Han cut him off, gesturing to Camila. "She is not a server tonight. Tonight, she sits with us." Marcus's jaw dropped. "Sir, that's against policy. Staff cannot." Seo-jun stood slowly. His voice was silk draped over steel blades. "Marcus, my father just honored this woman with an invitation. Are you telling him no?" The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Camila froze. "I can't. My shift." Seo-jun walked around the table. He pulled out the chair between him and his father. He spoke to her in Korean, his voice low and vibrating with command. "Camila, in our culture, refusing an elder's invitation is the deepest disrespect. Please sit. Because I desperately want to know how a woman who doesn't look Korean knows language patterns that died out before I was born." Camila looked at the chair. It was a trap. By sitting, she was entering their world, becoming visible in the most dangerous way possible. But she could not dishonor her grandmother's memory. She untied her apron, smoothed her uniform, and sat. The dinner that followed was surreal. The invisible black waitress shared a meal with Korean crime royalty. Chairman Han asked about Mi-sun's recipes, about folk tales, about traditional songs. He didn't ask about her life in America. He only cared about the connection to a past he thought he had lost. Seo-jun remained quiet, watching, analyzing. Finally, he leaned forward, pouring her a glass of soju with perfect traditional form. "So, Camila," he said in English, his eyes sharp as blades. "Park Mi-sun runs away from Busan in 1995. My father knew her. She was married to his friend, his blood brother, Daniel Park. They disappeared during the Great Betrayal. People don't just vanish, Camila. Not people connected to men like my father." Before she could answer, the restaurant doors banged open. 5 men strode in. Not Korean, but Japanese, radiating a barely contained violence. At their center was Takeshi Yamamoto, a brutal-looking man with a scar bisecting his eyebrow. He spotted the Han table and walked directly toward them, his smile vicious. "Chairman Han, I didn't know you were in the city. And having dinner with," he looked at Camila with open contempt. "The entertainment." Seo-jun stood slowly, his movement fluid but deadly. "Yamamoto, you're interrupting a family dinner. That's unwise. Just being neighborly." Yamamoto laughed, stepping onto the platform. He reached out to touch Camila's hair. "Pretty. Korean culture is so progressive now." The motion was a blur.
Seo-jun grabbed Yamamoto's wrist, the sound of bone grinding against bone audible.
His voice dropped to a whisper. "Touch her, and I will take the hand. Then the arm. Then I will make you apologize to my father in the old way. The way that requires a blade." "Protecting the help now, Han," Yamamoto grimaced. "She is not the help," Chairman Han said, standing slowly. His presence dominated the larger man. She is a guest at my table. She carries the name Park. And she speaks the words of our ancestors. He looked at Camilla, then back at Yamamoto. And in our tradition, we have a saying for those who disrespect a family meal. Camilla knew the saying. She whispered it in Korean. Those who disturb the table die of hunger. Chairman Han smiled, a cold, terrifying thing. Exactly. He nodded to his security. Yamamoto was forcibly escorted out, but as he left, his eyes found Camilla, filled with pure venom. This isn't finished. And you, girl, you picked the wrong family. After they left, the tension slowly drained. Seo-jun sat, his expression toward Camilla a mixture of suspicion and a newfound respect. You know old Korean threats, too. Who taught you that one? My father, she whispered. Seo-jun paused. I thought your grandmother raised you. She did, Camilla said. After my father was killed. Chairman Han's voice was urgent. Who was your father, child? Camilla looked from the father to the son. There was no going back now. Her voice trembled, but stayed clear. My father was Daniel Park. But you probably knew him by his American name. Danny. Your right hand in the 90s. Your brother. The chairman's chopsticks clattered onto his plate. Daniel, he gasped, the name tearing from his throat like a wound reopening. My blood brother, the man who betrayed me in 97. The man who sold our plans to the Japanese and disappeared. He didn't betray you.
The words erupted from Camilla, her voice breaking.
He died protecting your secrets. He died protecting you. Everything you think you know is a lie. The silence that followed was crushing. 25 years of grief and betrayal sat between them. Seo-jun stared at her, and suddenly he understood. She carried herself with the same careful dignity his father's generation possessed. It wasn't learned, it was inherited. If that's true, he said, his voice barely audible, then you're not safe. Not in this city. He stood, offering his hand. Come with us. Where? Camilla's heart hammered against her ribs. To the compound, Seo-jun answered. Because now that Yamamoto has seen you and knows who you are, you're the most valuable target in New York. Camilla looked at his hand. It was strong, likely violent, but it was the only hand pulling her from the fire. She took it. The drive to the Han compound was a silent blur of rain-slicked highways. The compound itself was not a home, it was a fortress built into the cliffs of the Palisades, a blend of modern architecture and Korean aesthetics overlooking the Hudson River. As the gates slid open, Camilla felt a sense of finality. She was no longer a waitress. She was something undefined, and very much in danger. Inside, the house was beautiful but cold, smelling of sandalwood and gun oil. When an older housekeeper was told to get Camilla new clothes, she refused. I keep this, she said, clutching her uniform. And my name tag. It has my grandmother's handwriting on the back. I'm not losing it. Seo-jun walked down the stairs, stopping in front of her. You're stubborn, he said softly. Like your father. You didn't know him. I knew of him, Seo-jun corrected. The only man my father trusted, and the only man who broke his heart. If you're his daughter, you carry dangerous blood, Camilla. Blood that betrays. He was framed, she insisted, her eyes flashing. Grandmother Mi-sun told me everything before she died. She gave me proof. Chairman Han spun around. Proof? What proof? Camilla realized she'd said too much. A USB drive. It contains the truth. Where is it? Seo-jun demanded. In my apartment. sewn into the lining of my winter coat. In Queens. Seo-jun cursed in Korean. We have to go back. If Yamamoto knows who she is, his people are already tearing that apartment apart. That night, sleep was impossible. Camilla stood on a balcony overlooking the fortified compound. She sensed Seo-jun before she saw him, standing on an adjacent balcony, a glass of whiskey in his hand. "Why did you hide for so long?" he asked, his voice softer now. "Why serve tables?" "Instead of what?" she countered. "Claiming my place in a world of violence? I saw what this life did to my grandmother. I wanted to be Camilla the waitress, not Camilla the crime princess." "And now?" he asked. "Now I'm in a fortress with the crown prince of the Korean underworld," she said with a sad smile. "I guess destiny doesn't take no for an answer." He looked at her then, really seeing her for the first time. "You're not a princess, Camilla," he said, his voice rough. "You're a queen in hiding. And I'm going to help you take back your crown." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, his face hardening to stone. "What is it?" Camilla asked. Seo-jun looked up, his eyes dark with fury and fear. "Your apartment in Queens? It's on fire." At dawn, a convoy of armored SUVs sped from the Palisades towards Queens. They found Camilla's building shrouded in an unnatural silence. Her apartment door hung from a single hinge, the wood around the lock splintered. Inside was a scene of total destruction. The place hadn't been searched, it had been violated. Camilla rushed to her closet, frantically digging through shredded clothes. "My coat," she gasped, her hands finding nothing but scraps. "It's gone." Seo-jun's jaw was tight. "Yamamoto's bastards. They beat us here." "No," she breathed, tears stinging her eyes. That drive was the only proof. Suddenly, Seo-jun's radio crackled with an urgent warning. "Boss? Movement on the roof. Suv's outside. It's a trap." Glass exploded inward as bullets tore through the living room window. Seo-jun tackled Camilla, shielding her with his body as the world erupted in the deafening chaos of gunfire. He dragged her to the fire escape. Below, the alley swarmed with tactical mercenaries. "Up! To the roof," he commanded in Korean. They sprinted up the iron stairs, bullets pinging around them. They burst onto the tar-papered roof. The gap to the next building was 6 feet across a 3-story drop. "I throw you, you roll, I follow," he yelled. But as he grabbed her, a massive figure emerged from the roof access door, raising a shotgun. Seo-jun spun, shielding her. The blast hit his ballistic vest, driving the air from his lungs, but he fired 3 times and the man dropped. "Jump now," he gritted out, and despite his broken ribs, he threw her across the gap. She landed hard, scrambling up just in time to see him take a running leap, landing heavily beside her. They ran, finally descending a fire escape into a crowded street of Korean shops, melting into the morning crowd. They collapsed in an alley, gasping for air. "We lost it," Seo-jun wheezed, clutching his ribs. The evidence. Yamamoto wins. Camilla looked at him, at the blood seeping through his shirt. "No," she said softly. "He doesn't win." She reached down, unlaced her sensible, non-slip work shoe, and peeled back the insole. There, nestled in a carved-out hollow, was a small USB drive wrapped in plastic. Seo-jun stared at it, then at her, and began to laugh, a painful wheezing sound. "You said it was in the coat." "I lied," Camilla admitted, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Grandmother Mi-sun's rule number 1, never keep your jewelry in the jewelry box." Keep it in the kimchi jar. Or the shoe. He looked at her with pure awe. You're truly amazing, he whispered in Korean, before pulling her into a desperate kiss that tasted of dust and blood and survival. What's on that drive? A safety deposit box at the First National Bank in K-Town, she explained. Registered to Daniel Park and Takeshi Yamamoto. It requires dual access. Grandma said it contains the original cooperation agreement. Proof that Yamamoto was an FBI informant who framed my father to start the '97 war. Seo-jun's eyes widened. Getting into the bank is easy. Getting out alive will be the war. He made a call. Within an hour, Koreatown was swarming with Han operatives disguised as shoppers and tourists. But as they approached the bank, Seo-jun's phone buzzed. His face went white. Yamamoto just posted photos of us on the dark web. From the rooftop. He's putting a $5 million bounty on your head. Every mercenary in New York now knows what you look like. In the sterile, temperature-controlled quiet of the bank vault, the secrets of the past finally came to light. The USB drive contains scanned documents, FBI letterhead, and damning signatures. It detailed a long-term operation called Tiger Trap, designed to dismantle all Korean syndicates in New York by making them fight each other. Yamamoto hadn't just been a rival, he had been a saboteur, a ghost in their machine for years. He had framed Daniel Park, stealing a shipment and handing it to the FBI, then blaming Camilla's father. Chairman Han stood behind them, watching his entire past rewrite itself into a story of profound betrayal. My brother, he whispered, his hand finding Camilla's shoulder. My true brother. And I dishonored his memory. We have to show this to the elders, Seo-jun said, his voice hard. Yamamoto is a dead man walking. No, Camilla said, standing with a newfound steel in her voice. He's too powerful. He'll claim the files are fake. We need to make him confess. Publicly. In front of witnesses, he can't kill or buy off. How? Seo-jun demanded. Tonight, Camilla said, her eyes blazing. At the Gilded Obsidian. It's the Lunar New Year dinner. The gathering of all the families. Yamamoto will be there, playing the diplomat. He wants to sit with the kings. So let him. And then I'm going to serve him dinner. Seo-jun grabbed her arm. It's too dangerous. He'll kill you right there. He'll see a waitress, Camilla countered. Someone beneath his notice. I've spent my life being invisible. Tonight I use it as a weapon. Just then, Seo-jun's phone buzzed again. Security had spotted Yamamoto's men outside the bank. They knew they were there. The intercom crackled. Armed men were in the lobby, asking for them by name. They were trapped. That night, the Gilded Obsidian was closed to the public, reserved for the Lunar New Year dinner of the unified Korean syndicates. The heads of the major families sat at tables draped in red silk, a fragile piece hanging in the air. Takeshi Yamamoto sat at a prominent table, laughing too loudly, playing the part of an ally. Chairman Han sat at the head table, looking frail and defeated, playing his part perfectly. The kitchen doors swung open. Camilla walked out. She wore her waitress uniform, pressed and perfect, holding a tray with a single covered dish. The room went quiet. The waitress, Yamamoto sneered. You have 9 lives, girl. Camilla walked directly to his table. Dinner, Mr. Yamamoto. I didn't order anything. It's a specialty of the house, she said, her voice clear and carrying. Compliments of Daniel Park. The name hung in the air like a ghost. She lifted the cover. On the plate lay not food, but but a white chrysanthemum, a Korean funeral flower, the USB drive, and a printed copy of the FBI agreement, Yamamoto's signature highlighted in yellow. His face drained of color. Camilla stepped back, her voice ringing out in perfect formal Korean, addressing every elder in the room. "This is the traitor's reckoning. This man is a rat. He sold us all to the FBI. He killed Daniel Park to hide his shame." "She lies," Yamamoto roared, his men reaching for their weapons. Instantly, every waiter in the room dropped their trays, revealing pistols and submachine guns. Seo-jun stepped from the kitchen, a gun in each hand. "Nobody moves," he said, his voice ablade, "unless you want to die for a rat." Chairman Han walked to the table, picked up the document, and passed it to the elder of the Kim family. The old man read it, his face hardening. "Takeshi," he said quietly, "is this your signature?" Yamamoto, trapped and exposed, screamed, "It was business." "Just business." "No," Chairman Han said. He looked at Camilla. "Bring the knife." She handed him the steak knife from Yamamoto's table. He held it, looking at the man who had stolen 25 years of truth. But he didn't strike. He turned and offered the knife, handle first, to Camilla. "Your blood," he said. "Your justice." Camilla took the knife. The room watched as she looked at the man who had made her an orphan. She raised the blade high, and then drove it down not into Yamamoto, but deep into the wood of the table, inches from his hand. "I am not a butcher like you," Camilla said, her voice ringing with power. "I am a park. We don't kill rats directly. We let the cats have them." She turned to the assembled elders. "He is yours." She turned her back on him and walked toward Seo-jun as the room erupted behind her. She didn't look back. Seo-jun wrapped his arms around her, burying his face in her hair. "It's over," he whispered. But as he said it, his phone buzzed. It was a video just uploaded. It showed Yamamoto being dragged away, bloodied but smiling at the camera. "You think this ends with me?" His voice rasped. "I was just the beginning. Check your father's grave, little girl. The real secret isn't on a USB drive." The video cut off. Camilla looked at Seo-jun, her blood turning to ice. The game had changed. Again. 3 months later, the gilded obsidian was transformed. The cold, intimidating atmosphere was gone, replaced by soft light and the scent of jasmine tea. It was a place of celebration, not conspiracy. Camilla sat at a table, wearing a midnight blue silk dress inspired by a hanbok, a perfect fusion of her dual heritage. Seo-jun sat across from her, the tension gone from his shoulders. He slid a leather folder across the table. It was the audit of her father's estate. Daniel Park hadn't been a modest construction worker, that was a cover to keep her safe. He had been the brilliant strategist for the Han organization, and he had prepared for the worst. The number at the bottom of the page was $45 million, held in a trust for his granddaughter. Tears blurred Camilla's vision, not for the money, but for the love of a father who had built a fortress of security for her that she never knew existed. She pushed the folder back. "I don't want it." "It's blood money." Seo-jun looked stunned. "Take it," she said. "Give it to the families Yamamoto extorted. Build a community center in Queens. Wash it clean by doing good." She smiled. "But I'll keep one thing. The deed to a property in Jeju. A traditional house with a tangerine grove. It's soil. My soil. Our soil." Seo-jun looked at the woman who had saved his family and his soul. He stood, walked to her side, and sank to one knee. The restaurant went silent. "I've been meeting with the elders," he said, his eyes only on her. "I told them the war is over. I told them the crown prince is retiring. This was my duty," he said, opening a velvet box. Inside was a jade ring. "You are my life. I don't want to be a boss anymore. I want to be a husband. I want to wake up in Jeju and learn to make kimchi the way Mi-soon taught you. Camilla Park, will you let me serve you for the rest of my life?" She didn't answer in English. "You are my breath," she whispered in Korean. "Is that a yes?" he asked, grinning through tears. "Yes," she laughed, as he slipped the ring on her finger. A perfect fit. The restaurant erupted in applause. At a corner table, Chairman Han raised his teacup in a silent toast, his eyes finally at peace. The cycle of blood was broken. The feast of life had begun. But Seo-jun's phone buzzed. Again and again. He finally looked, and his face went white. It was a photo from his security at the cemetery. From her father's grave. The earth was freshly disturbed. And carved into the headstone were new words: "The daughter knows half the truth. The rest waits where the tiger sleeps." Below it, a single fresh white chrysanthemum. Camilla's hand tightened on Seo-jun's arm. Yamamoto's last words echoed in her mind. Seo-jun looked at her, the joy from moments ago replaced with cold calculation. "It's not over. Whatever your father died to protect, we only found part of it." The celebration continued around them, but for Camilla and Seo-jun, the pull of the past was dragging them back in. A new, more dangerous chapter was just beginning. Music swells, a mix of hope and unresolved tension, then fades out.